morning, everyone. This is Britt Simon. So I thought I'd jump on and do some questions. I'm going to try. I normally struggle to keep up with all the questions. So as people ask questions, I'm going to answer them as quickly as I can, sort of fairly directly. So if I'm direct in my answers, I don't mean to be rude. I'm just trying to get through a lot of the questions. Okay. So the first thing I want to address, because I know I'm going to be asked, is the DV 2020 and DV 2021 lawsuits. They're still under appeal. The government appeal has been heard before the panel of judges on September 16th. We're waiting for the outcome of that. We don't know how things will be processed. We don't know when the outcome of the appeal will be. Probably be January, roughly, but we don't know for sure. So we're just waiting on that. So there's no more updates than that, really. Okay, so good morning to all of you. So I've got some good mornings and hello mates and that sort of thing. So that's nice. So what type of questions do ask you once you get selected and waiting for interviews? Yeah, so get selected first. It's kind of a waste of everybody's time dealing with questions from people who've entered DV 2024 and they're waiting to see if they will win. There's no point in worrying about whatever situation in your case. Your chance for selection is pretty low in the lottery. And so you wait until you've actually won and then you ask your questions, okay? DV 2020, I just answered right at the beginning. Go back and have a look at that. Welcome from Finland. When will the 2020-24 results come out? They come out in early May. I think it might be May 8th from memory. It varies every year, but early May. Some people ask about when is the selection made. The selection is made between now and then, but there is a period of time when they go through some background checking and that sort of thing. They actually disqualify some cases before the results are announced. And those winners that were selected in the random order never know that they were selected. They're just disqualified straight away. So that will go on between now and May, and then in May the results will be announced only on the web, on the website. So you can only find out if you're a winner at the website. If you find out any other method, like if somebody emails you, if a friend, if an agent says, "Oh, we've got your winning number," you need to be wary of that because it's probably a scam. Okay. So good morning to all of you. Morning, Rita. Morning, Francis. Morning, Patrick. Good morning. Someone who is a police officer, does he need discharge papers or should he resign before interview? Don't resign before your interview. As long as you're in a police force that allows you to resign, that there isn't a sort of a commitment ongoing, then it's not a problem. I know some countries, their police force are almost militarized, and people are worried about that when they go to interview. I've known people in military be approved for DV visas as long as they're able to leave their position, their job. You can't obviously continue that work and obtain the green card, right? But don't resign before your interview. You don't know for sure you're going to be approved, right? The appeal I just spoke about at the beginning of the video, so go back and have a look at that. I have a case number below 5,700, sent DS260 12th of May, but still not processed. Your advice, sir? Great question. I'm glad you've asked this because it kind of proves the point. A lot of people think that the day you submit your DS260 means that if everybody else you submitted on May 12th, people don't seem to understand that all DS260s take different times to process. So you could submit on May 12th. We know for a fact that people in June and even early July have been processed by now. So why is yours taking longer? Well, I don't know why yours is taking longer. I don't know from where you live, where you've traveled, but there is something about your background or your DS260 that has caused them to take a bit more time with your form. That's not a problem. Doesn't mean you've got a problem. You just have to be patient, okay? And so fairly soon, hopefully, you'll find out that that's been processed and you could be scheduled. If I were you, I would email KCC and ask them if your form has been processed, okay? Do I know anything about Biden's intentions of increasing DVs issued per year? That's complete bullshit. There is no such intention. He said something about 50 to 80,000, but there is no law, there is no bill. The president just can't make stuff up. And, honestly, people blame the president for too much, and they give the president too much credit. There's a whole process of laws that goes on, and the president just deciding that he wants to give 80,000 visas away in the lottery doesn't mean that will happen. Okay, it's got to go through law change and everything else, and immigration law changes are very, very difficult to get through because the two sides don't agree, and it's just in fact, it's not even the two sides. Even within one party, they don't all agree about how to handle immigration. So immigration reform, changes to immigration law, are very, very difficult to change. And the DV lottery number won't change unless there is a change to immigration law. Okay, so that's just forget what Biden said. It's not going to happen. And if it does happen, it will be, it'll be a long period of legal wrangling and the bill passing and everything else. Okay. Just got my visa. Is the 6 months passport validity applied for immigrant visas? Yes, you should have a passport that extends 6 months beyond your entry date. What you can do, since you've got your visa, is apply for the new passport and keep both passports, the old and new, because the old one has your current visa in it. That's important to travel with. So, you can travel with both passports. That's how you do that. Okay. Can we know how many people have played the DV program this year? Good question. I suspect it will be back up high. The numbers were approaching 25 million people, including derivatives, prior to the introduction of the passport rule. Then they introduced the passport rule, and those numbers dropped massively, right? Because obviously there was a lot less fraud. So I would, and that's what the passport rule was supposed to do, by the way. It was supposed to reduce those entries, the fraudulent entries. So I suspect that we'll see, since the passport rule is no longer required, I suspect we'll see an increase in entries this year, which means that your chance of selection will be lower, because there'll be more people entering, right? That's basically how it works. Just got done with the medical, says Mazin. Our names were written as per passport, which is 4 names, but on the DS260 we only use first 3. Would this be a problem at the interview? Generally not. There are some cases where that's a possibility, right? There's sometimes a grandfather's name, a sort of family name. But your best bet is to match your DS260 to your passport. Okay. At the very least, list that name in the other name section. So for you, regardless of your case number and whether you think there's going to be a delay or something like that, you are far better off unlocking and correcting your DS260 in that situation to make sure the name matches. In the middle, 4 names, but on the DS260 I only use first 3. Yeah. So you need to unlock your DS260 and make sure all 4 names are in there, preferably in the legal name section, and if not, at least in the other name section. Okay. And don't even bother asking me about delays, because frankly, people that still think there are going to be delays for unlocking are idiots, for a start. And secondly, if you prefer denial over a delay, then again, you're an idiot. So, come on. We've got more than enough evidence now to understand that in DV 2023, there is no delay for unlocking. But there is certainly problems for people that put the incorrect DS260s forward. So, please, there is a couple of lawyers that are giving this idiotic advice. Please stop listening to them, because I'm beginning to think those lawyers who are giving such shitty advice are doing it in order to generate business, because they're creating problems which they, as lawyers, will then go and try and solve for a fee of only $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever. Honestly, stop listening to these bloody fools. They don't know what they're talking about. I've explained it time and time again. So, there you go. Quick questions again. Hi, Britt. Tell us something about DV 2023, Africa, Nairobi, Kenya. Is it started the interview? Yes, it is. That's something. It has started. What about 2022 winners? DV 2022 is over. There is no DV 2022 case that has any possibility of any approval at this stage. If you were in AP, if you were going through administrative processing when the program ended on September 30th, that's it. Your chance is gone. You have to listen to that advice, because there's no point thinking you're going to be, that you're going to have some miracle. There is no miracle. They gave out more than the 55,000 visas allowable by law, and the program has ended. There's no lawsuit that is working. All the lawsuits towards the end were thrown out. The lawsuits earlier on, like Jesse's lawsuits, actually achieved some progress and did some positive things. And I think lawsuits from previous years helped DV 2022. But in the end, the late submitted lawsuits, like the ones that Curtis Morrison filed, they were all thrown out. He had some individual lawsuits that maybe had some minor success, but nothing. I mean, nothing for any of the group lawsuits that they started. And it's over, right? Simple as that. Still waiting for the next 2NL. Any idea? The next 2NL? I think you mean the next VB. The visa bulletin is published between the 8th and the 15th. I've been getting messages for a long time over the last few days saying, why is the VB late? Why is it? Oh, what's happening? Oh my God, is it because of the elections? Is it because Trump is talking on TV? Is it because aliens have landed? No, none of that. It's not late because it's due between the 8th and the 15th. For the last couple of months, it was published early. It was published around about the 7th, maybe the 6th even. But that's early. Now, just because they're early for a couple of months doesn't mean you freak out the next month when it's published within the normal time frame, right? It's perfectly normal. It's not even the 15th yet. So, I suspect it'll be issued on Monday or Tuesday. And it's not impossible for them to issue it a few days later than that. It has happened in previous months. So just in general, though, it's not late at all. Big fan from Cameroon. Thank you. Submitted DS260 on October the 5th. Is it processed? And my case number is AS40. Okay, your number is AS4000, so you're not current yet. So there's no need for you to worry. You submitted quite late. October 15th to submit your DS260 is late. I suspect that will probably be processed by, let's say, December or so. Your case will probably be current by then. So late December, maybe early January, your DS260 will be processed, and your case number will be current. But that probably means that you'll have a bit of a delay. You won't interview until probably February or March at the earliest. So that's how it's going to go for you. 9K, how long could it take to receive my 2NL when my case number goes current? I mean, so the normal way that this works in a normal year is that your case number, when your case number goes current, assuming your DS260 is processed, you get your 2NL within a couple of weeks of the visa bulletin being issued. And then your interview is about 6 to 8 weeks after that. That's the normal way it works. There isn't this long delays. The long delays, the way things worked in DV 2022, the way things worked in DV 2020 and 2021 is not normal. None of that was normal, right? So the people that have only built up their experience during the time, when things were all messed up, don't understand how this is supposed to work. But basically, all DS260s will be processed probably by January or so. When I say all, there'll be some people who haven't even submitted yet. Those won't be processed, of course. But the backlog will be, most of the backlog will be done by December, late December, early January, maybe late January at the latest, right? There'll be no more backlog, which means at that point, if you were to submit your DS260, it would be processed typically within a few weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, as long as there's no sort of background checks to be done on your case. And then, assuming you then become current, or you're already become current, you get your interview almost, just 2 weeks after the next VB. So maybe your DS260 is processed just after a VB has been released. Well, you've missed that month, right? So then it's going to be another month before your case will be in the next batch. So there is a sort of a batch thing that goes month to month. I've explained that in previous articles and videos. But be patient. It'll be much better than DV 2022. Okay. Kat says, my partner and I just received our passports and visas for DV 2023 in Frankfurt. That's great. Incredible source of information. Oh, thank you. Just you fly. Oh my God, you're going to New York in January. It's going to be cold. Mind you, you're from Germany, perhaps. Maybe you're used to the cold. But yeah, it gets really cold in January. It's beautiful, but it is cold. But congratulations. Welcome to New York. Have fun. Let me know how it goes. How do I know if my DS260 has been processed? You can email KCC. Same question, says Hubstar. When will the next 2NL be released? I just talked about it. Is it important for a DV winner to involve a lawyer in the process? Can a lawyer be of importance in pushing the case to be interviewed earlier? So no lawyer can sort of get you an interview before your case number is current. No lawyer can get you an interview before your DS260 is processed. No lawyer. Doesn't matter how good they are. Doesn't matter how much you pay them, right? When do you involve a lawyer in a case? Well, only when you've got a serious problem of some sort or another, right? You don't involve a lawyer to simply transfer your case to another embassy, for example, as I had a question from someone yesterday. You don't need a lawyer for that. You just need some common sense and some persistence with with KCC. When would you actually need a lawyer? Well, there are some cases like, for example, Jesse Bless and I had a discussion in the forum yesterday in one of the channels about the Somali applicants who are going through interview at Kenya embassy, Nairobi embassy. Nairobi embassy is more or less routinely disqualifying these cases on the basis of their education documents because they cannot verify the validity of those education documents, and they don't trust Somalian documents anyway. In general, the Somalian documents are, there's been difficulties obviously in Somalia, and there's lots of documents that can't be trusted according to the Nairobi embassy. So Jesse's looking at that. I think he's got an interest page. He's got an interest page. Go check out Jesse's website. Let me see if I can find it actually. Here we go. I'm going to put, if you happen to be a Somali applicant who is planning to interview in Nairobi, you are almost certain to get disqualified. So I'm about to post a link in the chat, which is an interest sign-up form for Jesse Bless. And if he gets enough people that are interested, that are willing to share the costs of him doing some work, then he's going to see if he can try and form a plan on how to work with the Nairobi embassy or sue the embassy or whatever it takes to get that problem sorted out, right? So he just, if you're interested at all in solving that problem, then obviously, use that form as a sign-up. Only for Somalian applicants at the Nairobi embassy, as I understand it. Okay. Do we need to pay for the flight ticket in case I win? Yeah, absolutely you do. They don't pay for anything. In fact, you're a DV 2024 entry, I should imagine. If you'd have read, I think it's the last question, not the last question, but the last, on the frequently asked questions, I think the very last question deals with this. They don't pay for your flights. They don't pay for your relocation. This is an opportunity for you to live in America, not a free gift, right? They're not going to give you a job and give you a flight and come around your house and give you a meal and give you a nice car to drive. None of that. You're on your own, right? It's an opportunity, and some people, frankly, don't have the ability to grasp that opportunity. Some people pay for their flights and come to America and find that their life here is, difficult and perhaps even worse than where they were. Now, that's particularly the case for someone from the poor parts of Europe, let's say, because frankly, you're probably better off in Europe because you can get socialized medicine, you can get, you can get help from the government if you're unemployed and all those sort of things that don't exist here, right? And so for some people, they probably shouldn't come. If you're coming from a country where it's super poor, or dangerous or something like that, then frankly, you'd be better off cleaning floors in America than you would be living in your own country, right? So because you'd be safe and you'd have, some way of earning a living, so everybody's got a different situation. I totally get that. But this is an opportunity, not a free gift, right? And you have to understand that the opportunity may not be for everybody, and you have to work hard at achieving it, right? Making it work for you. Okay. What does the status ready mean in DV charts? Ready is, there is no status that says you've not been scheduled for an interview yet. There is only the first status you see is in transit. That's when the 2NL is sent from KCC to you, and at the same time they electronically transfer your case to the embassy. When the embassy receives that electronically transferred case, which simply is a formality, then they mark SEAC as ready, right? So ready means that you've been scheduled for an interview. That's basically what it means. Now, you'll see some cases always stay at ready. They never change off that. That is people, generally speaking, who didn't show up for their interview for whatever reason, right? So, and there are cases like that every year, but ready means basically you were scheduled for an interview. Okay. Thank you, Ernest. Yes, I'm well. Thank you very much. Can we know how many people have applied? I think we already talked about that one. Assalamu alaikum. Is that like salam alaikum? Salam alaikum? That's assalamu. That's just the proper spelling, I would imagine, in your language of now I'm reading it. You've messed me up. Salam alaikum. Alaikum salam. There you go. How about DV 2022 winners? Already covered that. There's no further chance. Is it a big deal if I change my embassy? I haven't received my appointment yet. So in DV 2022, there was a lot of embassy swapping, right? A lot of people tried to swap from this embassy to that embassy. And for a lot of people, frankly, that's what saved their cases. There were some embassies that did an amazing job to help people out, right? And I won't name the individual embassies because I know what will happen. You'll all try and go to those embassies. But there were some individual embassies that did a very good thing. However, KCC didn't like that, right? Number one, they actively tried to dissuade people or put barriers in people's way to stop people from moving. Also, some of the embassies, once people had transferred, because the easiest way to transfer embassy, by the way, is to tell KCC that you need to unlock your form because you've moved to another country and you need to update your address. In that scenario, it's perfectly right, it's perfectly normal that you're going to be living in a new country, therefore you want to have your interview in that embassy, right? What some people did, though, was they contacted embassy and they said, I've moved to this country, whatever country it is. I've moved to India, so I want to be interviewed in the Indian US embassy, or I've moved to Paris or wherever it might be, right? And then the embassy said, okay, show us proof that you've got legal right to live in this country. And the embassies, once they didn't have that because the people had lied about moving to that country, the embassies in some case either cancelled the interview or gave people a hard time during the interview, including disqualified some cases for the lie. Okay. Some people found they were unable to travel to the embassies that they said they were now living at because they didn't have appropriate visas to enter those countries, etc. So a lot of people made their lives a lot more difficult, and some people lost their visas because they tried to play the game of moving embassies. So this year in DV 2023, I don't think people need to do that, right? So don't mess around with DV 2023 based on what people are telling you they did in DV 2022. That was a different year. It had all sorts of problems, and there were some things that people had to try and do, but they were desperation moves, which in some cases caused problems, right? In some cases, they succeeded. I'm not saying nobody succeeded by moving embassy. It worked for some people, but there were many cases that caused themselves more problems by moving. And then there were some people that moved to this embassy, and then they wanted to move back to that embassy that they'd come from, or to another embassy. And and basically their cases just never got scheduled because they just moved around. They just messed around with their embassy moving all the time. So generally speaking, don't change your embassy unless you really need to, right? You may have to, but don't do it unless you need to. Okay. Good morning, Dr. Usama. What is the estimate for visa bulletin of January for Iranians? I don't have estimates for any country, including Iranians. DV 2021. Talked about that at the beginning. With this exception in Morocco in visa bulletin, can they reach over 30K in case numbers or more than this number or less? Don't judge the whole year's progress based on the first 2 or 3 visa bulletins, right? The visa bulletin can actually move very fast if the conditions are right for that to happen. Okay, so I'm not going to make predictions about where the numbers will end up at the moment. I'm not going to do that. We don't have any data to support any predictions. So people that are predicting anything are just bullshitting and talking about things they don't know about. And I'm certainly not going to do that. Okay, and now I'm going to talk about predicting some things. Right now, next question. Maz Ali says, is AF 52K a high case? It's not particularly high, but I do think in general high case numbers are going to have a tougher time this year, because I suspect that the government is going to try and revert back to being more organized if they can. More organized means letting the visa bulletin control the progress. And the visa bulletin will be used to make sure there are not long lines of AV queues, as we call them, and they're going to try and control the progress through the visa bulletin. Okay, so AF 52K isn't particularly high, but it could be high-ish, right? Greetings from Ecuador, South America. Bienvenido. Thanks for the quality content. No pasa nada. Me alegro. I'm watching from Ethiopia. ET. Okay, great. 23 AF 14K. Check the vocational school option. Check the vocational school option. There isn't a vocational school option, but I think you mean in either your entry or your DS260 you chose that you went to vocational school. Vocational school is schools which train you for a particular job, a vocation, a job. Vocation and a job is the same thing, right? So it's like you went to plumbing school, you went to car mechanic school, you went to, I don't know, you went to carpentry school. It's some sort of skill like that, right? You went to nursing school. So those are all vocations or jobs, and that sort of training doesn't qualify you for the DV lottery. So you go on and say, "Yet I went to college and got certs for that. Is it worth unlocking it? Can it be corrected at the interview?" Okay, so you should have detailed your education correctly, right? Now, the selection that you made in that drop-down list, either on the DV entry or even in the DS260, is not in itself disqualifying. So you could say, you could choose the very beginning option, which means, I got no education. But as long as you've detailed your education and as long as you have shown your education at the interview, then you should be okay. But, if you're nervous, then unlock and correct that particular thing, right? There's no need not to, no need to have that sort of, stress, right? And, you're not even current yet. You could do that. And I should imagine you'll probably get current in the next few days. So it's up to you whether you, whether you change that or not. It's not a big deal. Question about DV 2020 and DV 2021 there, and I addressed that right at the beginning of the video. Do we need a consent letter to move with my stepson? I'm married to his father. Yeah, so if you've got custody of the child, 100% custody granted through a court or something like that, then you don't need permission. But if you share custody of that child, then yes, you absolutely should get permission. And some COs will ask for that. Not always, but they will ask for that. So you're planning to take your stepson to America. That's obviously going to limit the father's access to that child. And so, yes, you should have a sworn letter of some sort, perhaps a document of some sort, or perhaps even go to court and make sure you've got the right to do that. Okay. How many people will be winning this year? I don't know how many selectees they'll pick in May. Basically, when they select 100,000 or less, it goes pretty well. That's the right sort of number for them to have. 100,000 selectees tends to get to the point where everybody gets current. When they select more than 100,000, it tends to create some situations where some countries, some regions won't go current. So I don't know for sure what they'll do this year, whether they'll over-select again, as they have done for the last couple of years, or whether they'll under-select this year. Okay, DV 2023, 8K. DS260 is processed in IDs. Why am I not getting 2NL? Does this mean after December feasibility my case expires? No, your case won't expire. I don't know when you got processed. Don't know whether IDs is what the capacity is. But just wait. I would expect you to get a 2NL as long as you got processed. More than, let's say, a few weeks ago. I'd expect you to get a 2NL in the next batch, which will be between just after the VB is issued this week. Coming, the VB will come out this week, right? So just after that, and for the next couple of weeks after that, up until about the end of November, there'll be 2NL sent out, which will be for January interviews, right? Yeah. So you'll probably get a January interview. So Nepal, question is, why visa bulletin update is taking time this time? My case number about 74K. Is there any chance this year? You just have to be patient. It's taking time because they're running it properly. The idea of the visa bulletin is to distribute the work over the year. So if they made everybody current on month one, it would be a bloody mess. It would be chaos, right? They went current last year, DV 2022, and it was chaos. I mean, I said it was going to be, and it was. And it creates unfairness, it creates chaos, it creates difficulties. And so the visa bulletin is designed to slow down the work over the year. Right? There's a full 12 months of processing. We don't need to get everything done on month 1, 2, and 3. So just patience, right? Just relax, be patient. How can I start my green card process? I have no idea, Teresa, because I don't know what your situation is. You have to be a bit more clear than that. Any news about 2019, 2020? I think you're talking about 2020, DV 2020. And I addressed that right at the beginning of the video. Okay, go back and look at the beginning. If a DV winner deported the US before receiving the actual green card to sort out a few things back home, departed the US before receiving the actual green card to sort out a few things back home, how this person can come back to the US? Okay. Right, so you're a DV winner. You entered. You got your visa was endorsed when you entered, and if you read your visa, it says there, upon endorsement, serves as so I've forgotten the words now, which is unlike me. This serves as proof of status or something like that. Anyway, that visa is an I-551. It's proof of your status as a lawful permanent resident and will serve as your temporary green card until your actual green card comes for up to 1 year. So if for a year after your initial entry, you can use your existing passport with the visa in it that was the one you used, right at the beginning. Okay, so that's how that will work. I don't think I've phrased that very well, but I hope you got the point. Okay, question here about 2021, 2020. Is there nothing the government can do and we can say that we will take the reserve visas? Okay, so you're asking about the legal process. Can there be a later appeal? There could theoretically be an appeal after the appeal result this time. So we got the result from Meta. We won that from Judge Meta, right? Then the government appealed that, and that appeal went before a panel of judges on September 16th. There were 3 judges, and we're waiting for the results from those 3 judges who make a decision. They will either agree with Judge Meta or disagree with Judge Meta. They could even sort of vary the order a little bit, but we'll have a result. Now, if they agree with Judge Meta, the government could appeal that decision. And when they appeal that decision, they're going up to a court above them, which is essentially the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court may or may not take that case. They don't have to take every case. They don't take every case. The Supreme Court could then say, okay, we're going to take that case, and that will give us more time to wait. Or they could say, we're not taking that case. We're going to let the panel decision stand. There's no, we're not going to get involved in that case at all. And that point, it would be final, right? So we don't know if the government will appeal. We could appeal if we lose, right? Our side could appeal. I don't know if we would, but that's a possibility. So no, it's not 100% final when we find out the next, the result in January or whatever. There could be some further delay after that. It's a long, slow process, but slow is better than never. So when do you think the December bulletin? Just talked about that. I think it's next week. Got my visa. Thank you very much for info. I'd like to know if there are other things I have to do before going to the US. No, not really. Just get ready. I mean, plan how you're gonna start your life there. Are you going for an activation trip, and you plan to return to your home country and then go again at some later point? That's one possible way to do things. Or are you moving to America the first time and that's the big move and you intend to start making your life there? If it's the latter, then you need to plan how you're going to do this. Are you going to stay in a hotel for the first 2 or 4 weeks or something? Where are you going to live? What sort of work are you going to do? You can plan all of those things. You can have a plan in mind. Do you have any money to move with you? How are you going to move that money? You're going to put that into an account where you can move that across through money exchange. There are things that you can be doing, but it depends on your situation. So it's difficult for me to give you a sort of a list of things to do. It depends on your situation, right? But there are no things related to DV itself that you have to do. There's nothing. You have to pay the $220 fee, but you can do that either before you arrive in America or after you arrive in America. Either way, it doesn't matter. Okay. Submitted to DS260MA, unlocked and resubmitted 2nd of September. My form is still processing, no travel history. Do you think my form? Yes, it will be. Absolutely. When did you submit it? In May, yeah. There are other people in May that didn't unlock that are still being processed. We had a gentleman earlier who submitted May 12th, I think he said. And he's not been processed yet. Right, so and you sensibly said. Let me go back to your question. You sensibly said no traveling history, right? So, but there may be someone with your same name who appears on the terrorist no-fly list, right? And that could have caused them to look at your name and your contacts a little bit more. That could, you don't have to have travel history. You don't have to be a nuclear weapons scientist in order to get delayed in your DS260 processing. It can sometimes just take longer, right? Okay. Does DV 2020 for filtering by education qualifications? Absolutely not. It's a random selection. Random. Doesn't matter whether you're married or single. Doesn't matter whether you've got a degree or no degree. Doesn't matter whether you're 6 foot tall or 5 foot tall. They don't give a monkey's. It's a random selection done by a computer that does not care about any of those other factors. It's just a random. In fact, it's not even a selection. What it is actually a numbering process. Let's say there's 20 million 20 million entries, right? Or 10 million entries, whatever number you like, right? 10 million entries. They simply get a computer to number those entries from 1 to 10 million in each region. So it's like Africa, 1 to 10 million. Then there'd be Europe, 1 to 5 million, right? Then there'd be Asia, 1 to 2 million, or whatever. Those number ranges are separate. They're all numbered, right? Every entry they receive in every region individually is numbered. And then they just say, okay, if your number is, 50,000 or below in Africa, you're selected. And if your number is, or whatever number, 50,000, 70,000, whatever number they choose, right? They figure out what number they're going to say you're selected. The rest of the cases got numbered, but they just were too high a number to be considered a selectee. That's how the process works. It's entirely random of how you get that number. Someone out there gets case number 1, right? I mean, I think I've spoken to someone with a case number 2 or 3. I don't think I've ever spoken to case number 1 in any region, but I might be wrong about that. I don't know. Do you know if you have a vocational school degree and have been an entrepreneur for a year at the time of the interview, can I be accepted? So being an entrepreneur, what do you mean by being an entrepreneur? If you went to vocational school to be a car mechanic, and now you're an entrepreneur because you fix cars for a living, then that's not really the type of entrepreneur that that they will be impressed by. Now, on the other hand, if you went to vocational school to learn how to be a car mechanic, and now you own a car mechanic business with 52 employees, right? And you're opening up 3 or 4 different locations, that's an entrepreneur, right? That's a business person. And that entrepreneur, knows about business, they know about finance, they know about, all sorts of things. And that second type of person could claim to be an entrepreneur and possibly could pass the qualifications on that alone, right? Pass the, be approved for the DV visa. But if you're an entrepreneur because you learned how to fix cars and now you're fixing one car at a time, your hands only, then no, that's not going to qualify you, right? When should AF27K expect to interview? Probably, I would say between February and April, roughly, at 2:30 p.m. How can I get someone to host me in the USA? I have no idea. This is a very common question in Africa about hosts, etc., and also some Asian countries. But in general, Europeans wouldn't dream of doing that, right? Aussies might, Kiwis might. They might sort of phone, Aussies and Kiwis might phone a mate or something and ask if they can couch surf. But British people, for example, they'd be horrified. They're too reserved for that, right? So, it's more or less a sort of cultural thing. And this whole idea of hosts is typically a sort of an African thing. Now, what do I know about that? Nothing. I was raised in Britain. I worked around Europe, sure, but I don't know anything about how to get a host. So I don't know how it's done. I have no idea. We saw on the consulate website that they're sending out additional consulates. Is this information true? How does this help the DV process? Yeah, I saw this. There was this photo where they had a bunch of new consular officers, etc., and everyone on Telegram channels was getting excited. Wow, more! They'll speed up the processing. It doesn't really work like that, guys. So, firstly, that photo that they had with consular officers, that had maybe 50, 60, 70 people. That worldwide, that's a drop in the ocean, right? That's like a drop of rain falling into a bucket. There's nothing, right? It's not a big deal. Now, if you tell me that there's one particular embassy that has got 10 extra staff on top of the 10 they already have, yeah, that could make a difference. But I don't know of any situation where there's such a large number of staff being recruited to one particular embassy. And of course, a new consular officer needs time to be trained up, and so what typically they do is they would take that new trained consular officer and sit them next to a more senior consular officer, and it would take time. So I don't think that's going to have any sort of real impact on speeding up DV 2023, right? I mean, that's the reality. Talked about that one. My wife submitted an entrant but did not include her master's degree certificate, but only include her bachelor's degree. Can she add it in case she win come May? Okay, first of all, your wife did not include her master's degree certificate in the entry period. There's no place where you can upload certificates. So if your wife is selected, she will then detail the education she has, and that will be the point at which she explains she's got a master's degree. So she hasn't done anything wrong, and there'll be time later to introduce that information. Okay, now move to Canada. How can a interview location change? You email KCC, you ask them to unlock, you live in Canada now, so you need to update your address, right? And then, so you update your address, you will not be able to change the embassy selected in your DS-260. You literally can never change that. And so you update your address, you then resubmit your form, and you email KCC with a note saying that you've updated your address, you now live in Canada, you'd like to be interviewed in Montreal, right? That's how it works. And they will do that, right? My name is John Command from South Sudan. How can I win DV lottery? Well, hopefully you entered the DV lottery. If you didn't enter the lottery, you got no chance of winning. That's the only thing I can say. You have to just enter, and then you may be lucky. What questions should we expect during the interview? Interesting question. They ask very, very few questions. They normally ask things about if you're married, for example. If you got married recently, they might ask you questions about how did you meet? How long have you been dating? That sort of thing. They want to know if you got married recently. They want to know that your marriage is genuine, right? If in a more normal interview, they would be saying, okay, what plans? Where do you plan to live in America? What plans do you have? What sort of work will you do? Now, none of these questions are particularly complicated, so you don't prepare for the questions. These are questions that you would be able to answer anybody because they're just conversational. Some of the questions are designed to sort of test what you've written in your form, right? Oh, so I see here you've, you've got no kids. And you go, and someone says, oh no, I got 3 kids. And then the CEO says, oh, well, hang on a minute. Why are they not in your form? Oh, we're not planning to take the kids. Hang on a minute. You didn't include them in your DV entry. Therefore, you're disqualified, right? So some of the questions can sound innocent, but will lead to problems because you lied at some point in the process. But if you haven't lied, if you've been honest in your DS-260 and you haven't lied at any point in the process, then there is no question that can be asked that is going to cause you a problem. It's literally as simple as that because they're very easy questions. It's very conversational. And most DV interviews last between 3 and 5 minutes. That's it. So it's not like, they're not asking a really difficult conversation, difficult questions. It's very, very quick. Good evening, please. I need to know if my wife from Burundi, she has what? I need to now if my wife from Burundi, she have my surname. I have no idea. King Rama. If she's called Queen Rama, then she's probably your wife. Other than that, I have no idea. Suffering in Ghana. Hope I can travel abroad for greener pastures, but who's going to help me? I don't know. ABC Truth. I can't answer that question. I'm current for December, but my DS-260 is still processing. Wonder if it's better to expect an interview after December. Yeah, I mean, you expect so. If you've not already been told that you're being interviewed in December, then you're absolutely not being interviewed in December. You're going to be interviewed later, possibly in January, possibly February. That's the way it works. It's not like you lose your chance. If you're current for a December interview and you don't get scheduled in December because your DS-260 is still processing, you don't lose your chance. It's not like the whole thing passes you by and therefore you've lost your chance. You just get scheduled a little bit later. That's all. It's fine. It's no problem. AF47K, when will it get interviewed? Probably next summer, but I don't know exactly. If you have UK visa or immigration, you should apply for the green card. I don't know. Do you want to live in the UK or you want to live in America? I've lived in both countries. They're both nice countries. The reason I live in America, number one reason is probably the weather. For my wife, basically, she was not happy in the UK. We lived in the UK for 10 years, and she wasn't happy because of the weather. But the other thing is, I've also, out of the two countries, I'm the same person. And in the UK, I did okay financially. I did all right. I was, pretty good, better than most people in the UK. In the USA, I've made a lot of money. All right, so you can make a lot of money in the USA. That's the difference. This is a place where you can make good money here. If that's in your psyche, not everyone comes here and makes a fortune. That's not what I'm saying. But this is a place where a person that can do well in that country or this country will do a little bit better in America, right? As long as you're a person that can do well in either country. If you're a person that doesn't do well, maybe you're not well educated, maybe you're not very hardworking, maybe work and everything else isn't important to you. Maybe you want to sort of relax and see life. There's still plenty of reasons to come to America. It's a great country to go hiking and mountaineering and go to beaches and see lots of things. It's great. But maybe, getting rich is not your thing. And, and that's fine too. Everybody's different, right? So, so should you go to the UK or the USA? It's really a personal choice. Third time to enter DV lottery, worked in the US Army. I will get the lottery this year. Yeah, I don't know, Mahmood. I don't know if you'll be selected or not. It's just random. It's got nothing to do with whether you're a good person, a bad person, educated person, tall person. None of that, right? Any news about VV? Well, it'll be out this week. So I have a question about new acquired citizenship. Use that passport to travel to the US. Do I need to unlock the DS260? Yeah. If you've got a new citizenship, that is a significant piece of information. You should unlock the DS260 and add that. Yeah. Kingsford Coffee Maker. What a great name. I'm from Ghana. My wife won DV 2021. Didn't get an interview date. She won again DV 2023. I've submitted the DS260. Can we get an interview date by April of next year, case number 25K? Yeah, probably. Congratulations on winning again. That's awesome. Some people are very surprised that happens, but actually statistically, that happens. There's several hundred cases every year that are previous winners. So it happens. Ethiopia DV 2023, 31,000. Move to Canada. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I think we talked about that one. You asked about the 4 names thing. The thing is, our interview is already scheduled for December. Oh God! So I don't think we can unlock the DS260. Let's hope for the best. That's all you can do, Mezzine. Yes, I wish you'd have done that earlier though. But yeah, okay. I don't know why you didn't include your 4th name, but never mind. Yeah, like you say, you just have to hope for the best and some CEOs will just say, "Oh, no problem. We'll write the 4th name in." Right? They'll literally do that. They'll fix the problem right there in front of you. Other CEOs will have a problem with it because they'll wonder, why didn't you include all 4 names? Are you trying to hide something? So hopefully you'll get the first type of CEO. AS500 until now did not get the 2NL submitted in May. Do I need to follow the KCC? So you can email KCC. I wouldn't worry about it personally, but anyway, email KCC. Is it possible to change the delivery address online after the payment? Is there any way of doing that before arriving at the entry point? No, not before you arrive at the entry point. It doesn't. So when you're a green card holder, number one, you go on Edis and you make your payment, and you think, okay, I can make my address change there. But the green card delivery will ignore that address. All right. Same thing for the social security number delivery. They'll ignore that address. The address they'll use is the address that you have on your DS-260, the USA address, right? And, so your last chance of updating that is when you arrive at the airport and you're going through immigration, you make sure you change that address to the place where you want to receive your green card and your social security number. So make sure you do that. The online system, whilst you should always update your address in the online system, it won't change the delivery address of the green card. Okay. So this question here is, you've got your appearance has changed dramatically since you took the photo on your passport. It doesn't matter. Your passport is 6 years old. They will know that you look different, right? It's, now, if you're a different person, that's a different thing. But how different can you look in 6 years? Okay. Where can I get appointment form for DV1 lottery? Thanks, Simon. I don't know what that means. I don't know what you're talking about, really. King. Okay, King. How's the Queen? Because my certificate for marriage is my surname. Because I'm coming from DRC. Congratulations. My wife, she coming from Burundi. I give here my surname certificate of birth. I leave South Africa. I'm sorry, King. You're going to have to look within your court at the castle where you live and get someone who can speak English to answer me a question, because I'm not understanding anything you're saying, I'm afraid, King Rama. But anyway, look after your subjects, please. Thanuka answered your question already. Is it possible that DS-260 can be processed before you are current in the VB? Yeah, lots of people have that. It depends when you submitted it. It depends how quickly your DS-260 is processed, depending on the complexity of your case. And it depends when you become current. But yeah, lots of people find their DS-260 is processed and then they're waiting for the case number to be current. Other people find their case number becomes current and then they're waiting for their DS-260 to be processed. So yeah. Can you tell us what the process currently is? It's not slow. It's not slow, Khan. It's organized is what it is. So the reasons the VB numbers didn't increase very much so far is because they're going faster with DS-260 processing. If you've got 1,000 cases and on 1st of October, only 50 of those cases are available, DS-260 processed, then there's 950 people that need to be processed next. So as you're going through the DS-260 processing in that 1,000 cases, more and more people are being made ready for interview, right? Now, the DS-260s are being processed, at least they're being opened in the date of submission order. Now, it doesn't mean they're all going to be completed on the same day. When they're all opened on May 15th, they won't all be completed processing on the same day. They take different times to process, right? But they're opened in the order of submission. But that means that some people who've got like Africa 70,000 have already been processed, right? Because they're processing all the cases. So unfortunately, it's a bit of an inefficient system. Even though that case from isn't going to be current until way into next year, they've already processed the DS-260 because it was submitted earlier. So it's kind of inefficient and wasteful, but that's the way they do it. All right, so we just have to relax and just wait for the process to go through. Okay. My first name, Mohammed Abadabadingdong. I don't know. In my full documents, I Abadurrahman. Okay. In my full documents, but in my passport, Mohammed A. Mohammed A is a much better name for your name because it's so much easier for me to say it. Is not full because length I can't fit in passport. DS-60. Okay, you put your first full name and entry. Okay, unfortunately, Mohammed, or can I just call you Medme? Unfortunately, I have no idea what your question is here. So you have to be a bit more clear with the question, I'm afraid. Submitted DS260 for a newborn with the husband's passport number as he suggested. That's fine. Will I need to unlock it to change it once I have a passport, or do I do that at the interview? EU 11,000. You can do it either way. It doesn't matter, really. You can go right up to the interview and then just make the change. Oh, we got the passport for the baby now, so put that in. That's perfectly fine. On the other hand, it doesn't delay anything if you want to unlock and change that prior to the interview. So you can do it either way. What if I marry after filing DV lottery? That's fine. You just, that's fine. Depending on whether you've been selected or not, that's all fine. You'll just include your spouse later on. Any information about the future visa bulletin? Nope, we're going to see it this week, so no information, no guesses from me on that. No expectations for the January bulletin. I'm not going to guess that. There's no need. Visa bulletin Asia, March cutoff, Mark 8th. Oh, okay, you're talking about 2022. And for April, 17,000. You're obviously trying to estimate when your case number is going to go current. That's a fun game for you to play at home, but I'm not interested in playing that game. The process, the numbers from last year won't necessarily go at the same process speed this year. The density, the number of cases per 1,000 has a big part to play in that, right? And so things are going to be different. So anyway, if you want to guess that, feel free. I'm not going to. Please disregard my repeated incomplete questions. I did. Thank you. I'm from Congo. Congo, Kinshasa. AF 5,000. So when can I get my interview? Probably. I mean, you could probably get your interview right now, but I don't know whether you submitted your DS260. You don't mention that, whether it's been processed. But yeah, you could be processed, fairly quickly, and you could get your case number is current right now, right? I've heard that the form is something. Oh, I have heard that the form I something, probably the I-134. It's supposed to fill the sponsor. Yeah, the I-134 in the US, mostly used in the Africa region. I'm from SA. I wonder if they asked for it. Yes, they do use it all over the world. There's so much bullshit that is spread about this form. They use it everywhere. They don't use it in every case. They don't ask for it in every case. Basically, the I-134 is filled out by a sponsor, a financial sponsor, and is to say to the CO that you won't become a public charge. The question of becoming a public charge is the question they're trying to answer, right? And they can answer that question either by having a sponsor, right? Here's my sponsor. He's going to help me when I come to the USA. Or they can answer that question by having lots of money in the bank and showing bank statements. Or if that person has got an extremely valuable career, good experience, good job, and that sort of thing, then the CO will have no concerns about that person, making a living in the USA. So some cases need it. That means, it could be used anywhere in the world. It's not specific to Africa region, okay? And it's the I-134. There's a similar form called the I-864, but you don't use that form. You only use the I-134, okay? Can one go to the interview with job qualifications even though I've got education and qualifications, perhaps some failed subject in the high school, filled DS260 with masters? Yeah, you go with everything. The reason that most people qualify by education is because it's simpler to do that. It's formulaic. It's black and white, right? It's not arbitrary or up for discussion. So what I mean by that is there is a set formula for meeting the education requirement, and if you can meet that formula, if you meet the level that they're looking for, then you've passed, no question about it. If, on the other hand, you want to show work experience, that's okay. They will pass people on work experience, but it's more of a conversation. You've got to prove, why you think you're entitled to the to be approved, you've got to show that your job is at the right level, and it's somewhat subjective, right? It's not as black and white. It's not as formulaic. So you can go with work experience. It's just easier to show education. If you have a master's, some CEOs will just say, yeah, you've got a master's, you're qualified, no problem, moving on. And it's as simple as that, right? Okay. Do you know what will happen to the DV 2023 winners from Russia? We're attached to the embassy in Warsaw, but we cannot get to Europe because of the tightening of visa laws. Yeah, it's known as a catch-22. You're told to go over there for your interview, but they build a wall between you and over there, and there's seemingly no way around it. I don't know what you're going to do is the honest answer. I think you're going to have to try and find a way to get to one of the European countries. How you do that, I don't know. I'm not on the ground in Russia. I don't know how things are at the moment over there. So yeah, I don't know what you're going to do, but maybe you can travel somewhere else, not in Europe, where you can go somewhere else entirely. I don't know. And maybe then you come back to us. I don't know. You have to figure it out. It sucks. But, what can I say? There's a mess going on in Europe. And unfortunately, most of Europe, including ex-Europeans like me, blame Russia, which unfortunately affects Russians, even those that weren't involved in the decision-making process that led to, Russia invading Ukraine. But, unfortunately, Russia is going to pay the price, and it's going to get worse, much worse for Russia in the future. The longer this goes on, the more people Russia kill, the worse it's going to be for them. So, I would get the hell out of there if I were you. But there you go. Okay. My case is AF 1600, submitted June and became current in October, but haven't received the 2NL despite having a low case number. Yeah, it's like I said earlier, not every case is going to be processed according to, if other people submitted on the same day, other people could have their DS260 processed before you. It can be down to your name. Your name sounds very similar to name in names from that region, and that's like John Smith, right? Mohammed Yusuf. It's a very common name, I would say, and so you're probably going to be matching with someone that they've got interest in. So many miss their interview notes and ask for a new date. This because queue for interview does not move. Because of this, the queue for an interview does not move. You're talking about the Warsaw situation. I bet that's true. I'm sure there'll be a mini chaos for Russians in Warsaw because that's going to delay. People would have been scheduled for interview. They can't turn up for that interview. They're going to be trying to reschedule those later. It's going to be a mess. I don't know what's going to happen, really. Okay, let me get a few more quick questions. We're over an hour now, so let me just do a few more questions. What will happen in a case where your age in your passport is different from the one in your certificate? Your birth certificate and your passport should match. If they don't match, one of those documents is wrong, probably the passport. So you need to those documents should match, because otherwise it creates an idea that one of those documents is fraudulent. I don't know how you've managed to get that, but it should match, right? How long should DS260 take to process? I don't know how long it will take for your particular scenario. You've traveled, that can make it longer, but I don't know how long it will take. I've sent my DS260 at September 29th, didn't get an interview day till now. Is it normal? Absolutely normal. They're still processing cases of submission, as you've read in the chat here, or as you've heard, people from May and June submissions. They're still working on those. They're definitely they haven't got to September submissions yet. You're going to wait at least a couple of months before they've processed your DS260. Okay. Does your chance of winning depend on your country? No, it doesn't depend on your country in general. The chance of selection is the same for every case within a region, right? So within Africa, there's a chance of selection. Within Europe, there's a chance of selection. The only difference to that is some countries that have so many entries that they just couldn't get that number of winners. People in those countries have a lower chance of selection because what happens is they select people from all the countries. They start at case number one, they select the people, and at some point, let's say Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan has, so many entries, it gets enough entries to get enough winners at some point, and then they stop selecting people from Uzbekistan. They just disqualify other people from Uzbekistan from that number onwards, right? That means all of the Uzbekistan cases would be winners would have lower numbers in general. They would stop having winners at a certain number point. That's how we can tell they've been restricted. And so those countries, and you've got Ukraine, Uzbekistan normally, you've got countries like Iran and Nepal, some of the African countries as well. Those countries have a lower chance of selection because they're limited in the draw in that way. Okay. Right. I'm going to pick a couple more questions to answer them, and then we'll call it a day, right? Can the sponsor's signature in the I-134 be scanned and emailed? Yeah, someone can. So your sponsor should download the I-134. They should fill it out either by computer or by pen. Either way is fine. They sign the form, they scan that, and they email it to you. That's all fine. Okay. Hey, if I happen to win the DV lottery and I'm not financially stable and have a family of 4, including me, can I be allowed to leave my family back and bring them over later? Yes, to some extent. You haven't been selected yet, so this is kind of a waste of time as talking. But when you get issued the visa, you're given 6 months validity on that. So you'll be able to bring them within that 6 months' time very easily. If you think, though, that's too soon and you want to bring them later, then you don't process them through the case when you win. You just go yourself, and that's possible. And then you try and bring them later. But bringing them later after the DV lottery can take years. It's a long, slow process and expensive too. So be very careful about that. If you get selected, my advice is to all process together. Then one person, the person who can make money, goes to America first, and the others follow up within a few months, right? They go within that 6 month time frame. Okay. Okay, question here. Samuel, I'm a winner of DV 2021. Can I get a consultation from you? If so, do you have a fee charge that? No, I'm not. I don't charge fees, any fees, full stop. I'm not a lawyer. I don't do private consultations. And having said that, you're a DV 2021 winner, so your case is over unless you're already a member of one of the lawsuits, right? So if you're a plaintiff of one of the DV 2021 lawsuits, then you've already paid a lawyer to represent you. You don't need a consultation with me. But I don't do consultations anyway because I'm not a lawyer, okay? And I don't charge any fees for anything. I mean, I help people because I want to, but I have a job that pays my bills, and this is not my job, okay? I'm 18 years old and I applied a loan. Is that wrong? And I have a high school diploma. Not wrong at all. That's absolutely fine. Quick question here. What if I am from Swaziland and apply while on the B2 visa in the States? Must I go back home to Swaziland for my interview, or can I just do everything in the States and my family does it in Swaziland? You can, right. Understand that if we're talking about DV 2024, DV 2024 results won't be out until May of next year. Processing won't start until October of next year, a year from now. And most cases won't be processed until many months after that, right? Processing is between the 1st of October and the 30th of September each year. So so it's a long time. So you're not going to be sitting in America on your B2 visa all that time, right? But if you happen to be a winner and you are in the USA on a non-immigrant visa, probably not a B2 because that's got a very short time scale. But if you were here in the USA on that visa, legally, as long as you don't go out of status for not even one day, right? Then you can adjust status while you're in the USA. You can process in the USA. And if you do that, and because you're the winner and you adjusted status in the USA, then yes, you can have your family do their interview back in your home country of Swaziland, and then they can join you after they've done that interview. And that's called follow to join. And the form for that is an I-824. So that's all possible. But first of all, you have to get selected. And when you're selected, you'll see the timelines are slower than you think. So there you go. All right, one more question. Let me see if I can find an interesting one. I'm just scanning through. I hate that you've repeated this question a dozen times, MK, but it's a good question, so I'll answer it anyway. Does DV lottery winner have to fill separate DS260 if they got derivatives, or do they just fill one DS260 for all? No, a DS260 is an individual application for immigration into the USA. So every member of the family that wants to go to the USA has to have their own DS260. So when you're a winner, you go into the system, it shows your name and other names, other family members, and you create a DS260 for each one of those people. If you've had a newborn baby or you got married, you can use the add applicant button and that creates a DS260 for that person too. So yeah, that's how it works, okay? Easy, MK, one-time question is enough. Absolutely right, Mina for Kids Entertainment. Okay, I think that's probably going to be it. Can't see any other quick questions. But anyway, I hope that was useful. We spent quite a bit of time, over an hour and 15 minutes, but answered as many questions as I could. I hope that was interesting and useful for you. Please do subscribe to the channel and make sure that you get this sort of information as we go forward. And best of luck to all the DV 2024 entries and good luck to DV 2023 processing. And fingers crossed for the appeal in January. All right. Okay, everybody. Thank you for joining today. Bye-bye.